Welcome to Franchise Canada Chats, the podcast that takes you inside the world of Canadian franchising. I'm Renée Boudakian, founder and CEO of Rubicon Franchise Partners, and your host for Season 9. This season, we're going beyond the business model to uncover the real stories of franchise owners, the risks they took, the lessons they learned, and the successes they built. Join us as we sit down with franchisees, their franchisors, and industry experts to discuss emerging trends, cutting-edge technologies, and operational strategies shaping the future of franchising. Whether you're thinking about buying your first or next franchise, this podcast is your inside track to franchise success in Canada. Today on Franchise Canada Chats, we're joined by Salima Mussaji, a multi-unit franchisee with Spirit of Math. Spirit of Math is a unique after-school program that uses a classroom environment and advanced curriculum to help high-performing students unlock their potential in math skills, problem solving, and logical reasoning. But for Salima, it's also a business that allows her and her husband to serve their community and shape the minds of the future, all while building a life that they want. So what's the equation for a fulfilling career and a successful business? On this episode, we'll solve for X. Salima, thank you for joining us and welcome to Franchise Canada Chats.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. So I would love to just get right into your journey, your story, and really have you share with us a little bit about life before franchising. You had joined Spirit of Math in 2006, and you've been with the system for a while. Can you recall what was life like before you found Spirit of Math and the franchise business model? What was your career background?
So I actually studied math and business at University of Waterloo. Yes, I'm one of those people that really like math. And early in my career, after graduation, I did work in the corporate world. And it was those 80-hour weeks that kind of wanted me to shift my life, especially when you have young kids. And so I decided then to look for a job that gave me a good balance between working and having a family life. And so then I went to the local college and I taught. And that was my first probably experience in teaching. I don't have a formal education in teaching, but my first experience in teaching was teaching at that local college, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed seeing the impact that it had on the students, learning and challenging myself in something that I have never done before, and then also having that balance between family and doing a career now that I enjoyed. So before Spirit of Math came around, I was both in the corporate world and I was teaching at a local college and enjoyed it.
Love that. And it sounds like you had that experience of in the corporate world, kind of those, long, grueling hours, but also you had that experience of teaching, which is not necessarily as many hours, but is super, is a different opportunity to engage. And so when did you know, or what was that turning point for you that you knew you wanted to own a business?
So I think we've always wanted, my husband and I always wanted to own a business. Like I think we had it in our DNA, in our blood, that we wanted to do something. We both come from families that are also entrepreneurial, so we wanted to kind of follow that same path. And but we weren't sure what it was. Like we weren't really sure what it was. And I think it was more so to do because we wanted to leave a mark or a legacy for our kids. And also my husband at that point was in his own business for the last 18 years. So having his expertise in business and myself having that teaching background or math background, a lot of opportunities did come into play. So we wanted to look at whether or not we could do it. And if we could do it on our own or, go into the franchising side of things. And we weren't aware of how to start, but we knew we wanted to do something.
Okay, that's incredible, and kind of leads very nicely into the next question that I have. Then is you mentioned not knowing which path to take, whether you were going to do something independently. What made you think of franchising as the pathway, and why did you not do Salima's Math Academy instead?
Yeah, great question. And Franchising, we didn't know anything much about it. My husband's business was, I mean, he was in the business, his family was in this business for over 40 years, and this was their own business. It wasn't a franchise. So we weren't really familiar with franchising. But honestly, when we looked more into it, having a business that you believe in, and plus the support and structure that's already there was great, was a good fit. So we thought, why not, right? I mean, to start something from scratch was very challenging. And having a young family, like to do that at the same time, we thought was probably taking away from the time that we wanted to spend with the family. So getting into a franchise that already had that structure and support was probably better for us in the long run. So that's why we decided to go in the franchising route.
Okay, that's very helpful insight. And when you were looking at the franchise model, were there other brands that you were looking at that time? And how did you ultimately land on Spirit of Math? How did you know it was the one?
So, yeah, we did do our due diligence looking at other brands and again looking at the education realm. And that time I think education after school programs or anything to do with education was growing 20 years ago. So we thought, okay, having a business as well as having that education background, let's look at to something that carries forward what we were doing. So we looked at other franchises. We did our due diligence. Spirit of Math didn't have other locations. It only had a location in Willowdale. And I remember it started all when my nephew started taking Spirit of Math, and my sister would constantly call and say, "You got to get, my daughter into Spirit of Math. You got to get your daughter into Spirit of Math." And I'm like, "Well, they don't have a location in Mississauga. How do you think I'm going to do this?" Right? So we called up Kim, who is the CEO and co-founder of Spirit of Math, and said, "Do you have a location in Mississauga?" Not even thinking franchising, just our primary goal was to get my daughter into Spirit of Math. And she said that we didn't have a location, and but we may be looking at in the future opening up. So she asked for my resume, and I sent her my resume. And then 2 years later, we actually reconnected, and she said, "Now we're looking at opening locations. Are you interested?" And it just couldn't come at a more perfect time when her phone call came and said, "Are you interested in opening up a location in Mississauga?" And both my husband and I said, "You know what? This is meant to be. Let's take on this challenge." And when we looked at Spirit of Math even further, the way that it was looking at kids, high performing kids, was very different from other after school programs that were out there. And the challenge that it gave to those students, more than just what they're getting in their day school, was another thing that was a positive reinforcement for both my husband and I to follow through with this program. So it was different enough that we thought we could have the opportunity to grow in our community. It wasn't in the Mississauga location, so there was that huge potential there as well. And both having that business and math and education background really, really was a good fit. And now Spirit of Math is celebrating 30 years, and I can't believe that it's been 30 years overall. And it's so happy to see how much impact they've had in a lot of students' lives already.
Absolutely. I mean, I was just thinking, so Spirit of Math there's one location in my area, and it's like the place to take your kids for after school math enrichment. And so much so that, I was asking, kind of wondering if another location might be opening up in my area, because it's not easy to get in that particular location a spot. And
Mhm.
so I think that there's a huge demand. And however the curriculum is designed, I know that it's done very uniquely, and it's really unlocking, as it says, like releasing the genius, is the tagline. And it's really helping these high performing students maximize and achieve those levels. So I think it's amazing. Um, so it's really interesting that you said that there was a 2 year gap between the time that you initially inquired and then the time that the phone call came. Were you still actively researching during those 2 years, or did you kind of put it on pause? Like, tell me a little bit about what was your decision making at that point when you really had a 2 year waiting period.
Yeah, so we weren't actively looking at that time. I think our kids were really young, so we weren't, it wasn't a necessity at the time. But as
Sure.
soon as that we reconnected with Kim, it was more like, okay, there's a, here's an opportunity. Let's take it. So we were very fortunate that that happened. Yes.
And do you recall, or so once you already landed on the business, you already knew it was going. Spirit of Math was the brand. Do you recall some of the questions that you or line of thinking that you were doing in the due diligence? What are some important um, criteria that you wanted to make sure check the boxes just for the listeners who might have found a brand that they feel really passionately about that combines skill set with passion? What were some of those criteria or questions that you were asking during your due diligence process just to make sure that everything is a match?
Sure. Great question. So, you know, it's a big risk, right? Owning your own business, whether it's a franchise or not, but it's a huge, huge risk. So I think we were looking at first that risk level. And with Spirit of Math at that time, I could still work at Sheridan and also run Spirit of Math. So the risk was low. And it was our first time owning a business. And if it didn't work out, I know I still had Sheridan to fall back on. And so that was really pertinent to us. We weren't sacrificing anything financially by opening up Spirit of Math because we were still working, both my husband and I, up until the time where it wasn't feasible to work. And now we're full-time Spirit of Math campus owners. But initially in the beginning, it did give us that balance, which was good. And you said it's something that you are passionate about. So the questions that were asked is, what would be my role as a franchisee? What would I be doing? Is this something that I can see myself do? What would my husband be doing? What kind of support would the franchisor give us as in how we're growing this business? These were all really, pertinent questions to us. Marketing, we were in a community that never heard about Spirit of Math. At that time, it was only at Willowdale. So Mississauga was completely, completely new. What kind of marketing are we going to do so people can hear more about Spirit of Math? And how is the franchisor going to help us with that? So those were kinds of the really important questions we wanted to ask. And we were very lucky that the support that we got from the franchisor enabled us to grow, both in marketing and operations and ensuring that we were set up for success. So we were very lucky that way too.
I love that. And one of the common, I would say, themes that I've been hearing from different franchisees that we've been speaking to across different brands is the support systems. And knowing that they were looking for support systems, but not necessarily realizing just exactly how much support that they were going to receive. So to that end, you mentioned about marketing support, which is so important when you're really the second kind of like location, more or less, and you're breaking into a city that has never heard of you. And so having a really strong support, marketing support from your franchisor is important to help you there. What other types of support systems did your franchisor provide you with or offer you?
So, Spirit of Math is for high performing students, and the franchisor, it was critical for them that the campus owners understand the curriculum as well. So we had to go through a lot of training, not just on the operation side, but also on the curriculum side. And it was really important for Kim that campus owners understand what's happening in the classroom so that we as campus owners can help teachers, can help students. So there was a lot of support given from the franchisor to ensure that we were equipped to help teachers and help students and help parents with the curriculum because the curriculum's hard. The program is hard, but we needed that. She wanted to ensure that we had that support from her and from the franchisor so that we can carry that forward to the parents and the students. That was really, really important. Other support that's given is, you're dealing with high performing students. We're also dealing with high performing parents. So there's a lot of situations that may come up where we're not sure how to handle it. So we have a franchise support rep, and it's great because we can either call upon that person or email that person whenever we want, and they're there to help us. And that is really important in this kind of system because if you don't have that mechanism in place, where do franchisees turn to? So having a support rep was is really critical. And whenever we came into these kind of parent situations, just to bounce an idea off of them to make sure that we're making sure that we are saying the right things, doing the right things, really, really helped as well.
Um, because you were early in the system, and really you've been part of that growth. What has it been like for you to experience the growth from the perspective of now you have other owners as well, and so it has franchising has a built-in community aspect to it. Not only do you get to reach out to the franchisor, but you also can reach out to your fellow franchisees. Is that a community that you found yourself tapping into over the years?
100%. I've known some of these franchisees for 10 plus years, and we have built a really good, solid community. I mean, after all, their success is our success, right? So whatever happens to them also happens to us. And if they are following the standards and following what's in place with the franchisees, if we're all following the standards, then we're all growing together. And it's a community that we can kind of rely on each other. So if there's anything that needs to be troubleshooted and we're all facing the same problem, then we're all collaborating together to find a reasonable solution. So it's nice to have that support mechanism in place, even among the franchisees. It's really a collaborative community. There's no ego involved. We are there to be each other for each other's successes. And it's really nice. We meet quarterly as franchisees with the franchisor, and that gives us a forum. The franchisor gives us a forum and an opportunity to speak if we have any issues or concerns, and we're all there together. So, which is great.
I think that's amazing because I think business ownership can feel lonely. And especially speaking from the perspective of independent business ownership, where you don't have that community, I think that one of the magical aspects of franchising is really that built-in community, both that you have among your fellow franchisees who are running effectively the exact same business in just a different territory in a different location, so dealing with the same types of problems, the same types of challenges, but also experiencing hopefully the similar successes as well. And so that's a powerful part of it. But then you have your franchisor as well, who it's not just one person, it's a whole corporate team who's there to support you and support your growth. So that is a really, I think, underestimated how valuable that aspect is. Now I want to go back a little bit, and I want to ask, because a primary question that maybe some of the listeners who are considering franchising and this business model have is around capital to invest. And so if you think back to the capital, how did you gather the capital to invest in your business? What pathway or pathways did you explore, and ultimately were the ways that you were able to gather that initial investment?
Having my husband in a business already, we had a really good relationship with the bank, which is good, which is key, right? You need to have a really good relationship with the bank, and because of that, it wasn't too difficult to kind of gain capital or have capital for this particular business. We had to come up with a solid business plan. First time ever to do a business plan. But we had a lot of help, which was great. And that's important too. You reach out to anyone that can help you because you can't do it alone. And in this particular situation, we didn't know how to do a business plan, so I had to reach out to some people that knew. And because we did have a solid business plan, and when we presented it to the bank confidently with our numbers intact, we were very lucky that we did get proper financial assistance to start this business.
I think that that's great. And I'm not sure why there is a misconception around this, but I have heard from more than one prospective franchisee, there's this misconception around like, what do you need to have versus what could you potentially get as a loan? In your case, was it similar? I always give this analogy of like buying a house. Like you do need to have some down payment, but
Yeah.
then the bank will give you a mortgage for the rest of your house. So you need to come up with something, but that something, depending on your business plan and depending on the opportunity, the bank might be willing to fund, a really high percentage of it, but you still have to have something from your end to begin the business. Would that be fair to say?
100%. That's absolutely fair to say. Yes, you do have to have some amount of money for a down payment. And then based on your business plan and your past financial, biography kind of thing, then the bank would be willing to give you as much to help you succeed in this business. So yes, you do have to have some type of investment to go in.
Definitely, definitely. Um, if you think back to the onboarding process, what did that look like with Spirit of Math?
Oh, yes. Let's say I will not forget the onboarding practice because it was quite intense, something I've never experienced before. But and rightfully so. Like looking back, I'm glad I went through that. It was new to both of us, to be honest with you, because we were the very first franchisee, one of the very first franchisees. So the onboarding process was new to both the franchisor and myself, and it was more of a collaborative kind of onboarding, but it was intense. It went through everything from operations to marketing to how to own a campus to how to clean a campus, how to clean the whiteboard. I remember there was a process on how to actually clean the whiteboard. So that was an education in itself. We actually went to go visit some of the campuses as well. At that time, there were corporate-owned campuses. And so we could see firsthand how teachers were impacting and engaging students in the classroom. So that was great. So yeah, the onboarding was all encompassing, but you really afterwards, you really felt equipped. You really felt that you could succeed. They gave you all the tools that you needed to succeed, and it's a continual process, right? Education is always happening. So yes, onboarding happened many, many years ago, but we're still continuing to learn year after year after year. There's new processes that are in place. There are new training that's in place. There's new ways of doing things, new systems that are in place. So we're continually being trained every year.
I think that that is amazing. And I think that's also a hallmark of like a great teacher is one who continuously is a student, and continues to learn and to grow. So um, I think that that speaks volumes to the type of business owner that you are. And early on, in 2006, you opened the first campus, the first location. Just a short 2 years later, you opened the second location. Um, how did your role evolve from being a single unit owner to now and continuing to manage multiple locations? Um, how did that evolution of going from, I guess, one to two, what was that experience like for you?
So, lucky, I think I would say luck, and as well as not compromising in the type of people that you bring on board initially. It really it really plays a key role because it gives you the confidence that you can open up a second business, right? You can open up a second location. So from the teachers that we had initially in the first location, and because they transitioned so well into the classroom and they understood the standards that we need to meet with regards to Spirit of Math, opening up a second location was the transition was really easy because we had good people in place already in the first location. If I didn't have good people in place in the first, it would have been really difficult to open up the second. And then when we did open up the second, um, being at the, both my husband and I did play a role in making sure both were successful. So there were two of us that were going to the campuses. I couldn't be at two places at once. So his role was critical at that time as well. And, being in a partnership with him, we could only do it because of that as well. So, having good people so that you feel confident to open up a second location, and then also partnering with my husband really was key so that we could open up that second location. And then also having the confidence of the franchisor to say that, otherwise they wouldn't have given it to us as well. And having them, believe in us that we could do it was also key.
I think that that is well said. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Kim, the CEO and co-founder of Spirit of Math. And I think she's such a supportive person and supportive franchisor. And so really someone great to have on your team essentially and be on the same team together. So what I would love to ask is being a multi-unit franchise owner, what are some of the benefits that you have seen in multi-unit ownership? But also don't sugarcoat it for us. Tell us any of the challenges you've experienced also in being a multi-unit owner.
So with franchising, I think being a multi-unit owner is where you actually then see growth, right? Yes, you can grow in a single unit, but then you grow exponentially when you have another unit. And that's one of the huge benefits is when you have multiple units, then you do see the growth. But when you have multiple units, you have additional challenges. It's two times everything, two times the people, managing people, two times looking at marketing, two times managing the actual units. And because it was both my husband and I, we could deal with it together. I think if I was alone in this business, it would have been very, very difficult. But both my husband and I were there initially to kind of make sure that both of these businesses grew together. But it was challenging. It wasn't easy. But now I think we have a good system in place where, I mean, there are other challenges that we have to face, but we now have a good system in place that those initial growth challenges are kind of overcome.
And I think that's fair to say because, if we sugarcoat and say that business ownership is all easy, then that is not the truth. Business ownership has its ups and its downs, but there's usually something that makes it worth it for the owner and that keeps them going. What would you say is the thing or your why of like what makes it all worth it for you, even when you're having the toughest of days?
So I would say hands down the people. Hands down the people that you actually are interacting with on a day-to-day basis. And that's anything from your staff, like so for in my case, it's the teachers, the principals, the campus admin, to the parents, to the students, to the franchisees, to the franchisors. It is the people. My staff, some of them have been with me from the beginning, so since 2006. I'm so grateful to them each and every day. And the amount of dedication and passion that they put into the classroom is amazing. The students, you have some students that have been with us since grade one, and now they're graduating in grade 11. And the amount of time and commitment and hard work that they've put in, this is not an easy program. And for them to go through it year after year is admiring. Like it's inspirational. I love seeing the kids grow from grade one all the way up to grade 11. It's tough. And that's why then parents are also important in this whole, equation, if you want to call it, because they're there to support their child, right? I mean, it's parents, it's students, it's ourselves, it's the teachers, it's all of us together to make sure that that child is set up for success, and meeting them on a day-to-day basis. Some of these parents sacrifice a lot just to attend this program. And they want to ensure that their child's journey is easy as in how they go through the education life, right? So being part of Spirit of Math helps them in their day school or challenges them even more, not just in math, but in other areas. It builds that confidence, it builds that critical thinking, it builds those problem solving skills. So it's nice to see how that growth happens year after year. And funny enough, we have students that have graduated, gone to university, and are actually coming back and teaching at Spirit of Math. So that, it's full circle again. So seeing them from grade one all the way until grade 11, and then even come back is really nice to see. So yeah, by far it's the
That
people.
totally gave me goosebumps, by the way. And I think it's incredible that you've had students who have been with you for their entirety of their elementary and high school, and then have come back and are now helping the next generation in that. So I think it's incredible because math is such a skill, but also something that many can feel very uncomfortable with. I'll be very candid. It's not something growing up, it was my least favorite subject. And having a great teacher can really help you to have those unlocks in your brain, but also having not a good teacher can really help to or hurt and make it so that you close up. And so I think that it's incredible that your students and their experience is so positive that they want to come and continue their Spirit of Math journey, even as after they've actually graduated schools and helping that next generation. So I think that's amazing. So now, when you started Spirit of Math, you mentioned your children were young, so they're older now. Um, what has franchising allowed your family from a lifestyle perspective? And because it really sounds to me like it's a family business.
Yes. So, initially my kids were heavily involved in Spirit of Math. I mean, to the point where, after school they were at Spirit of Math and they were there till the end having dinner with at Spirit of Math. So, I mean, because I had to be there and I couldn't be home, so they were there at the campus with me. So, and so that, yeah, it was truly a family affair, all of us being at Spirit of Math every night. And then, for my kids in particular, I would say that it has helped them, the program itself has helped them with their careers moving forward. I remember my daughter started, because in 2006 she was in grade 3, and I put her in the program, and there was a drill, a multiplication drill. And again, at that time, multiplication wasn't taught in grade 3. It was taught at the end of grade 3. And I just remember her crying, going, I don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this, right? And I said, no, well, you don't have a choice. I'm the campus owner. You have to do this, right? So, but I still tell that story to a lot of parents because I think it's really important for them to know that kids will be vulnerable in the beginning, right? That even my kids went through this and look at where they are now. So, I think it's so my kids have gone through this journey. They are now, touch wood, they are successful in their own careers now. They are thinking, hopefully, maybe they might take this on and give them a legacy to follow through with, right? So, yeah, it's been a family affair right from the beginning, and it's allowed us to be flexible as well. Like owning your own business gives you that flexibility. Not initially, I mean, you have to be there all the time, but as in how you grow and you not compromise on the people that you want to be surrounded with, or that the people that you want to be part of the organization. And when you do that, then you have solid people to actually look after the business even when you're not there. And so that flexibility is key now, I think, and so that we could do things as a family together as well. So yeah, it's been a
I,
family business right from the beginning. Yeah.
I think that that's incredible. And I think also a huge gift that you have given, whether your kids know it now or they, will know it, is just the time that you've gotten to spend together, like growing like up when they were in the business and kind of like, after school with you. And it's just such a blessing, I think. And we as children, not necessarily realize that is what I want to say. But getting to spend time with your parents, because as life gets busier and as you get into adulthood, it's not as easy to do those things. And so I think that that's incredible. And also very funny. I think that children naturally don't want to do the things that their parents do,
Right.
like at the beginning. But there's so many stories that I have heard where they're like, well, why am I trying to do something new and different when I see my parents have created something that is so successful, like to take it over and to kind of be the next generation of that business owner. So I've seen that more and more, but I think it comes with sometimes finding yourself and also some maturity that, like, it's much better, even like in franchising, it's much better to start with something that's already a running cash flowing business that is established, that is known, instead of starting your own thing, or potentially going to work for someone else. Not to say that we don't need folks in the corporate world, we do, but I have seen that trend more and more. And that would be very exciting if your
Mhm.
children were the next generation of Spirit of Math.
Absolutely.
Um, so my next question to you would be around questions that, sorry, let me repeat that. My next question to you would be around advice that you would give to a prospective franchisee who's considering franchising, but not quite sure if this is the right pathway for them. What advice would you give to someone who is early in exploring franchising?
So pick a brand that, or pick a business that you feel that you can align with. Like pick something that you know that you can, that you are passionate about. Otherwise, it will not succeed, right? So don't do it just for the money. Like make sure it's something that you are passionate about, that you align with, that you feel, even for me, it was also something that initially, yes, for my kids, but it was something that it was also for the community. It wasn't in Mississauga. Let's bring it to Mississauga. It's a great program. Let's bring it to another location. So it was something that we felt that we want to give back to the community as well. Talk to people who've been in the business, even though, we were the very first franchises and we didn't know much about franchising. So we talked to people that owned franchises. So talk to people that are in the business, ask specific questions. How long does it take to break even? That's a big one. How long are you going to be putting in all this money, but when are you going to see any fruits from what your hard work? So ask, how long does it take to break even? How many hours are you expected to do this on a weekly basis, on a daily basis? So talk to people, ask specific questions, and really be ready for the hard work. Franchising is not plug and play. Yes, they give you the support. Yes, they give you the structure, but there's a lot of work involved at the same time. This is your business. You want to see it grow. So you have to put in that work to make sure that that happens. Make sure you hire the right people. So make sure that they are in line with your values and your goals for this business. And it's not just a job for them, So make sure that you're hiring the right people that you can see that you can grow with as well, and that you can see that will help you grow. That's really, really important. And then trust yourself, trust your gut, and is probably right. If you think that it's right, then it is probably right.
I think that's incredible advice. And I have just one more question for you, Salima. I feel like you have so many good nuggets. And so, my last question is, what's one truth about franchising that you know now that you didn't know when you first bought the business?
Relationships are important. Relationships are important, especially with franchising. You cannot do it alone. Like I said, even though they give you the structure and the support, you need to have relationships to grow. You need to be able to connect with the community, to connect with other franchisees, to connect with the franchisor. That is so, so important. Don't think you can do this on your own, even if it is a franchising model. That I thought was something that I didn't realize before, but now I think that's really, really important.
Amazing. Well, Salima, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing about your journey, your story with Spirit of Math, but also just your entrepreneurial journey as a whole. I want to thank you so much for giving your time, and I look forward to seeing more Spirit of Math locations, campuses opening, and following along with your journey.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure talking to you today. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Franchise Canada Chats. I'm Renée Boudakian with Rubicon Franchise Partners, and this podcast is produced by Joelle Kidd with the Canadian Franchise Association. Missed an episode? You can find Franchise Canada Chats on Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcasts. For expert insights, success stories, and franchise opportunities, visit franchisecanada.online. And while you're there, subscribe to Franchise Canada e-News, a trusted resource for aspiring franchisees looking to achieve their dreams and build their franchise future. If you're exploring franchise ownership, check out lookforafranchise.ca or learn more about franchising at cfa.ca. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.